Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. I am so glad you have found me and are joining me. I have a question. Will Trump's racist strategy work? So, we know he's a racist. We have a fairly good idea that he's been that way all his life. We know that, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And of course, Fred Trump was not exactly the picture of inclusive behavior. Trump seems to think that this is a strategy that is going to win him the next election. I don't quite understand that because poll after poll shows 60% or more of Americans are horrified by his behavior and his antics. But yet we have seen just over the last literally week or so, this incredible ramping up. Okay, and I'm not ignoring everything that is going on the border. I'm not ignoring the all of the history. I'm just saying that in the last very few days, it has been the Squad. It has been Elijah Cummings. These attacks just keep on coming. Now, frankly, as far as I can figure out, they are a huge indicator of just how really frightened he is. And it's almost like he's falling back into that which he instinctively knows, thinks, or believes. But the people around him, the Mick Mulvaneys, who honestly should know better, are out there, saying, well, this is just what he does, and that's just how it is, and, his people love it. Well, you know what? I'm not all that convinced that his people love it. You look at some of the faces behind him in those rallies, and what I'm seeing, there's those people chanting and waving like fools, but there's a lot of people who look kind of uncomfortable, kind of like they're not quite sure what to do with themselves or where to put themselves. And of course, being super mindful of the fact that the camera's on them because they're right behind Trump. So, come on down. I want to do a little bit of a dive into whether or not Trump and his racist strategies are going to actually end up hurting him or helping him. Come on down. Okay. Will Trump's racism work? Will Trump's racism work? And will Trump's racism work? I know there's a concern because he's in some ways it's almost like he's trying to start a civil war. He's trying to get each side fighting against the other. The problem is that to any rational person, anybody who's paying attention, that side, the side that is not inclusive, not accepting, is blatantly racism. They are diminishing in numbers. And I fail to understand how it's actually going to work to his benefit. Let's see what the cards say. Okay. He believes that is what won him the election in 2016. That attitude, that them versus us. Keep everybody out of our country who doesn't look like us, think like us, pray like us, believe like us. Keep them out. And he really believes that attitude is what won him the election. Because he hasn't been able to succeed in the other promises he made, the actual promises that did get him elected. The things like, I'm going to drain the swamp. Okay, that's hard to do when you're the biggest swamp creature, but that was his promise. I'm going to prevent GM and who is the fireplace people or the air conditioning people? Well, you know, they're not going to be allowed to move out of the country. I'm going to save your jobs. I'm going to give you a tax cut, the likes of which you have never seen. Blatantly false. People are closing plants all over the country. That didn't happen. I'm going to give you the best Medicare you have ever had. That certainly didn't happen. So he really doesn't have anything that he can attribute that success to. It's like he doesn't seem to be making the connection between these are the things you promised and people are a little annoyed with you because you didn't deliver on. All he is remembering and thinking is people think like I think. There's lots of people who think like I think. And if I keep ramping up that rhetoric, they're all going to come out and support me. And even people who support him because of, you know, that same thing. I know he's a pig, but his policies, even those people are starting to get kind of uncomfortable with the racist ranting that is going on. And that's what's going on, right? I mean, he's escalated to a place where he is just ranting. He's trying so hard to divert attention, and it's not working for him. And he doesn't know how to retreat. It's like almost like not in his DNA, right? He is just push forward, attack, 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 bully, bully, bully. That's what he does. So he doesn't know how to retreat. I think I've said it before, in some ways he really is like a one-trick pony, right? He has one thing that he does, and that's all he seems to be able to do. And I mean, you can absolutely see that if you're capable of watching even short periods of his rallies. Okay, I can't. Literally, my TV spends more time on fast forward and mute than you can believe. I've gotten to the place where I almost can't stomach. I can't look at him and I can't hear his voice. But you can see where he's delivering the same old, same old, same old. Because he can't even say, I promised you this, I delivered that. He can put up big banners that say, I delivered, but he delivered nothing but an amazing, amazing tax break for the incredibly wealthy. Other than that, he's delivered nothing except more rhetoric, more hatred, and more division. So he's incapable of retreating. But this is interesting because, normally the moon is about secrets and about illusions and about things not being quite what they seem. And while all of that applies to the personality of Trump, when I'm looking at this card, what I'm actually getting is these animals. So there's a dog and a fox. I get them actually baying at the moon, howling at the moon. And the moon is crying tears of sadness. And I believe that the universe, in all of its mysterious forms, are all crying tears of sadness because of what is going on, not only in the States, but globally, with this them, us, we're not going to be inclusive attitude. It's really sad, okay? He's desperate to make things go back the way they were. He wants to go backwards. And he's banking on the fact that there's, 45% or 49% of the population who wants the same thing. And he is so wrong. He's completely misreading this. His advisors are, I don't think that it's his advisors don't know any better. They do know better. But they're not going to cross him. They're not going to correct him because there's no point. All you do is make an enemy who doesn't, in fact, listen to you. So what's the point of talking, right? Okay. So this is what's going to create some of the resistance to this behavior that comes from him. As this continues to evolve and move forward, more and more people are going to be calling out the racism. They're not going to be subtle anymore. They're not going to call it by another name. They're not going to be distracted by words or catchphrases or slogans or pivots. They're going to start blatantly and consistently calling out the racism. And in doing that, they're going to demand that their representatives do the same thing. The time for sugarcoating his behavior is quickly coming to an end. More and more people see him for the fool he is, and more people are getting to the point where they are just done with it. Just really done. And so what you're going to see is very harsh judgment coming down on Trump, who does not want to accept what is being told to him, what is being offered to him as alternatives that perhaps might be able to possibly turn the tide in his favor, which isn't going to happen anyways. And he continues to rely on the support and the guidance from overseas. Is this Putin? You bet it is. Is it other type dictators? You bet it is. Because he believes that if he just bullies hard enough and strongmans hard enough, that he's actually going to succeed. What he has completely failed to understand is that the United States system of government is not anywhere near close to, for example, the Russian form of government. There are too many guardrails in place in the United States that do not exist in Russia. And while Trump can do his level best to try to destroy those guardrails, and he's put some really big dents in a few of them, he is not going to be able to destroy them. You know, it's interesting because as I've been doing readings the last couple of days and kind of focusing in, what I'm really getting is this sense that people have hit a point where they're just simply so saturated that they are now just saying enough is enough is enough. You know, and that's what happens, right? I mean, okay, terrible analogy, and I'm sure you are all wonderful parents, those of you who are parents, but you've had a really hard day with the kids, and they're bugging you, and they're bugging you, and they're bugging you, and they won't stop. And you go through that period of time where you're just like head in your hands, and I just want some quiet, and just I'm shutting you off because I can't take any more. And that is the state that a large percentage of people in not only the United States, but just kind of globally, they're just so done with him. They're so exhausted. They just want him to shut up. They just want some calm and some quiet. But very, very much like the parent who does not get that relief from their child, eventually you stand up and in a rather firm voice, you tell the child, you're not getting another drink of water. You've had your last cookie. Now get your butt to bed. I love you, but go to bed. Well, in much the same way, the people of America are going to say, enough is enough. I don't care if you're a Democrat and I don't care if you're a Republican. You, as my government representative, you start fighting back against this blatant racism. You start making sure that we hear that you are saying it's not acceptable. People have hit, they were sort of in that saturation point. But energetically, what I'm picking up is that people are starting to get vocal. They're not getting violent, and you're not getting angry. You've just gotten to a place where you are like, enough is enough is enough. You either start representing us, whoever you are, or we are going to pass judgment on you and we are going to change your fortunes. Whether that is somebody on a state level, a federal level, whether you are a senator or a representative, whether you are part of the House, enough. Either you start standing up and reflecting the actual attitudes and feelings of your constituent, or there will be a backlash. And it's so fascinating because I really don't see, any violence connected to this. It's not violent. It's just enough is enough. And I insist as your constituent that you start reflecting my beliefs and attitudes. And what Trump is spouting off is so far away from my beliefs and my attitudes. And it is time for you to start joining the chorus of people saying that's not acceptable. The everyday person going through their everyday busy life, dealing with their everyday issues, is starting to really, they're coming out of that sort of saturation, and they're starting to move towards we are now going to make our voices heard, and we expect people who represent us to make their voices heard. There is kind of a waking up of the energy. It was like for a while there, people were so battered emotionally by the crap and the garbage and the pure vileness that was spewing out of Trump and by extension his administration, that you just sort of got numb. And that numb is wearing off. And what is happening is people are coming together, groups are blending and merging for strength, and you're making it very, very clear, and you are starting now, and this wave of energy I expect is going to continue to ride and build and build and build, honestly, for the next 12 months. It is going to, and whether somewhere along the way that leads to an impeachment or whatever, I'm not addressing that here. I'm saying that for the next 12 months, that momentum about this is enough is going to build. You're going to see newspapers and media really getting kind of aggressive about the way they call out Trump, It, like, literally, you're going to see, headlines and banners across the bottom of your TV that literally say racist Trump. They're not sugarcoating it anymore. It's going to get more and more in your face, because that is going to be part of the energy that creates the blue wave, that creates the blue tsunami, that moves all of this horrible, horrible negativity and hurtful behavior out. Because, in some ways, the corruption, it's kind of in its own evil little cauldron, okay? But the racism stuff is becoming so blatant that the two situations or areas, they're kind of in their own separate pots, if you will, and they can't be blended together. It can't be this or that. It needs to be, we are going to deal with this now because it is so significant. It is so destroying our country. It is causing so much division. The racism needs to stop. Now, I understand as best as I can as a Canadian that the issues governing race and the United States has been going on for hundreds of years. It is not a new problem created by Trump. But what he has done is he has stirred up old resentments. And he has created an environment where those feelings and attitudes can be ignited. This is going to end in heartbreak for Trump and for those who support that kind of behavior. So just something else I want to kind of, there's the tower showing up and the star. So literally your hope and your dreams that you can move the dictator out and bring down his fall is exactly what is going to happen as you unite together and become a strong, cohesive forward movement. So just as like a really interesting aside, and I do not do a lot of past life stuff. I do not do a lot of regression stuff. There is an astrologer who I watch once in a while. Her name is Denise Siegel. And she's very interesting to watch. And what she says is that energetically, in terms of the planets and the positioning, the United States is fundamentally and basically in exactly the same state that it was during the Civil War. So that's really interesting. What I have noticed is that for the little regression kind of stuff that I do, a lot of the people who are on the planet now were also on the planet during the Civil War. So let's think about that. You have the same souls, the same energy returning. It is not rocket science to make the jump and say the same situation is brewing, where literally there is, north against south, white against black, whatever the distinction is, there is the opportunity, terrible word, for this thing to replay itself. But remember this, it is also the perfect opportunity to correct it. When karma comes around, its primary reason for coming around is to give you the opportunity to choose another path, to choose another way. So what has happened over time is you have some souls whose literally last incarnation was during the Civil War. But you have other ones who have had a couple of lifetimes between them. You have other people who maybe their last incarnation was the Civil War, but maybe they viewed it from another country or another way. Or they were, I'm going to say, on the right side of history. I really hope I'm not insulting anybody out there, because I'm not real up on the whole Civil War area. But instead of viewing this as history repeating itself or potentially repeating itself, let's start viewing this as the opportunity to start shifting the energy, correcting that which was not equitable and fair, and taking the time to get it right this time. And that's actually the energy that I feel, is this sense of we are going to overcome this, because we are now in a position where we have actually learned some of the lessons that our history has been teaching us. So we're going to call out Trump's racism, and we're going to call out the people who defend it as, and again, nothing makes me battier than people defending Trump by saying insane things like, well, that's just the way he is. Yeah, well, the way he is isn't what you call acceptable anymore. And he needs to not be the way he is, or he needs to get the hell out of office and quit destroying not only the country, but the reputation of this country globally. And you can do it. You really can. The energy is shifting and changing. I feel it. And I know that that momentum is going to continue to build based on just the amazing viewers I have at this channel. You're incredible. You're giving, you're loving, you're opened, you're kind. That's going to win the day. Awesome. So Again, thank you so very much for finding me and joining me. I love the subscriptions. They're amazing, and they're growing so quickly. The comments and the thumbs up mean so much. So take care of yourself. Stay positive, and understand that change is in the wind, and it's coming. It's not going to be denied, and it will be done without violence. Take care now. Bye-bye. Be well.